Hello, everyone, and thank you for visiting my channel. Today, I want to talk about how living abroad for an extended period of time can change your worldview. By the end of this video, you will have a better understanding of what you will gain when you take the first step on this journey. Stay tuned. The sensory overload is obvious as soon as you arrive. The heat and humidity stick to you like a second skin, serving as a constant reminder of a tropical climate. The honking of jeepneys, the distant crowing of roosters, the noise from cellars, and widespread karaoke create a chaotic yet rhythmic symphony of sounds. The smell of frying street food, blooming sampaguita, and exhaust fumes fills the air. This initial shock to the senses marks the first step in pulling you out of your familiar comfort zone. For someone from a developed Western country, the most noticeable difference is often the stark contrast in infrastructure and perceived efficiency. Roads may be full of potholes or unpaved. Public transit may be disorganized, and services may be slower or less dependable. The gap between wealth and poverty is clear and often more striking than what you may be used to in your home country. Children may be seen playing barefoot in the streets, while others are driven to private schools, and shanty towns may starkly contrast with shiny new retail centers. This first exposure prompts an immediate reevaluation of what counts as normal. The careful planned schedules, the readily available conveniences, and the predictable systems of a home country start to feel like luxuries, not universal standards. You quickly get used to a slower pace, unexpected delays, and a level of improvisation that is often unnecessary in more developed countries. This change is more than just practical. It's a philosophical shift that recognizes that there isn't a single universal way to live or organize society. Life in the Philippines and much of Southeast Asia starts late and is guided by what locals call island time or Filipino time. Plans often change, and since everything unfolds at its own pace, patience is definitely a virtue. This can be frustrating at first. However, if you embrace it, you gradually sync your inner clock. Activities like journaling, talking with strangers, or quietly sitting in a neighborhood coffee shop might become part of your morning routine. You might spend your afternoons appreciating the scenery or exploring a different town. The focus on productivity begins to fade, and reflection comes in that slower rhythm. You start asking yourself questions like, what really makes me happy? That's a question you didn't have time to ask back home. Have I been filling my life with busyness just to avoid these questions? Is success only about career and money? You see, when time slows down, the soul speaks louder. Many people are trapped in socioeconomic or ideological bubbles. Media, education, and cultural conditioning all shape their attitudes, beliefs, and opinions. This illusion can be broken by living in a developing country, especially the Philippines, where happiness and poverty coexist. You might find yourself sharing a small room with a family of five in a modest apartment. Or you could share a beer with a tricycle driver who works 16 hours a day just to put food on the table. You start to see the daily struggles, hopes, and dignity of people who live without Western luxuries. Being humbled becomes unavoidable. Slow Wi Fi, long commutes, and poor coffee, the things you used to complain about, become insignificant. You begin to realize how privileged your idea of hardship might have been. This awareness fosters gratitude, empathy, and a broader perspective. One of the most powerful aspects of living in Southeast Asia is the undeniable confrontation with global economic disparities. You experience firsthand the hardship faced by those who earn far less than what would be considered poverty in your country. You witness their resourcefulness in using limited resources, their ingenuity in making ends meet, and the stark contrast between those who have a lot and those who have very little. This is not just an academic observation, it's a lived experience. You bargain at the local markets, understanding that a few pesos can significantly impact a vendor. You see children working to support their families and observe how natural disasters worsen already struggling communities. Being directly exposed to poverty and inequality can be deeply upsetting and morally challenging. It prompts you to reevaluate your spending habits, your definition of wealth, and the privileges you may have taken for granted. It also deepens your understanding of the opportunities and resources available in your home country. Additionally, it can inspire a desire to contribute to positive change, whether by supporting local initiatives, advocating for fair trade, or simply becoming a more conscious global citizen. The vastness of the global wealth gap becomes less abstract and more profoundly personal. In Western societies, success is often defined by accumulation, more money, more possessions, and bigger titles. But in Southeast Asia, especially in rural or provincial areas, you meet people who live simple lives yet seem much happier than many wealthy individuals back home. This paradox makes you question the Western story, like whether a six-figure salary is really worth it if you're disengaged or burned out. Does feeling worthy require a large home and expensive clothes? What if wealth is about time, relationships, health, and peace? You start to see rich differently. Maybe a family sharing a meal in a bamboo hut, laughing and spending time together is more fulfilling in spirit than a person living alone in an extravagant condo. Living among people who value community more than consumption will challenge your idea of success. Southeast Asia, especially the Philippines, is known for its strong communal values. Key aspects of daily life include hospitality, respect for elders, group responsibility, and maintaining peaceful relationships. The spirit of Bayanihan, which involves helping neighbors without expecting anything in return, teaches an important lesson. When someone helps you, you often feel a deep sense of obligation and gratitude, known as utang na luhub. Additionally, Pakikisama emphasizes kindness and helpfulness to maintain harmonious interpersonal connections. These principles serve as effective ways to coexist with others beyond mere cultural quirks. As a Westerner, you might realize that your focus on individualism could have limited your ability to connect with others. You may see how a me first attitude could lead to loneliness or exhaustion. When you move to Southeast Asia, you often need to downsize. You might live in a studio apartment. You could have sold your car. Maybe you only have two pairs of shorts and flip flops left in your closet. Yet, something surprising happens when you let go of those belongings. You feel more free. You realize you can be happy with less. Minimalism becomes a way of life rather than just an aesthetic. Being becomes more important than having. Living in a place where creativity is valued and material possessions are often scarce might make you rethink consumerism in a big way. You may start simplifying your lifestyle, noticing how much you can genuinely do without. The constant hunt for new products and services back home may begin to feel less fulfilling and more like an endless cycle of desire. This could lead to a more minimalistic lifestyle and a greater appreciation for experiences over material things. You learn to enjoy riding a scooter in the highlands, eating fresh mangoes for breakfast, and watching sunsets without sharing them on Instagram. This simplicity encourages you to be present, and being present brings inner peace. The more time you spend overseas, the more you gain a fresh perspective on your home country. When you return, even for a visit, you may notice something like the constant rush and pressure, the consumer driven culture, the isolation many people feel, the mental health issues often ignored or medicated, and the widening gap between wealth and poverty. You may also discover that people are afraid to break out of the system in which they are in. Many feel constrained by debt, expectations, or fear, despite their desire to live differently. Now that you have lived a different life, you own a sort of truth. You have seen that there is another option. This does not imply disliking your country, but rather clearly recognizing its advantages and disadvantages. Perhaps one of the most unexpected and profound changes in perspective comes from seeing your home country through a new lens by immersing yourself in a new country and its culture. This distance offers a special perspective for critical introspection. You start to genuinely appreciate how well your native country's infrastructure works: the dependable public transportation, the portable water, the steady energy, and the well organized garbage disposal. Once taken for granted, these items now appear to be outstanding accomplishments. The everyday struggles that many people in Southeast Asia confront are far worse than the annoyances you're used to having in your own country. Living in Southeast Asia helps you develop your own worldview, not one handed to you by culture, politics, or upbringing. You start to wonder, what do I want my days to feel like? What sort of individuals should I surround myself with? What does enough look like? Or if I don't change, what will I regret? You have this internal compass with you, whether you stay for a long time or eventually go back home. You may choose to establish a small business, prioritize your health, travel more, or live with less. You might retain connections or break up with poisonous people. You become more deliberate and less reactive. That is the pinnacle of introspection, not only thinking deeply, but also making a significant change. Southeast Asia has a way of holding space for emotional healing. Perhaps it's the slower tempo. Perhaps it's an opportunity to detach from your previous surroundings. Perhaps it's the absence of both actual and figurative noise. You start thinking about the traumas, regrets, and disappointments you had to bury. This stillness allows you to grieve, forgive, and let go. Nature walks, conversations with strangers, or simply spending peaceful days gazing at the sea can all be incredibly healing. You are working on yourself without even recognizing it. It's also not always enjoyable. You can experience overwhelm, confusion, or loneliness. However, this suffering is a necessary component of the change. Another way your perspective expands is through the friendships you form. You meet locals, long term expats, digital nomads, and other travelers while you live overseas. Because you are all stepping outside of your comfort zone, these relationships frequently feel deeper. You share stories, laugh at the absurdities of culture shock, and support each other during tough days. These connections are invaluable. They serve as a reminder that despite our differences, we're all human. They challenge stereotypes. They foster curiosity. You come to the understanding that home isn't always a physical location, but rather the people you feel a connection to. Whether it's Buddhism in Thailand, animism in Indonesia, or Catholicism in the Philippines, Southeast Asia has a strong spiritual undercurrent. You can be drawn to meditation retreats, historic temple visits, or just following regional spiritual traditions. The emphasis on spirit over stuff might have an impact on you even if you are not religious. You begin to ask yourself, what do I believe in? What gives my life meaning? Or how do I find peace? You might start journaling, practicing gratitude, or doing yoga. Or you might simply sit with your thoughts more. This spiritual exploration is often one of the most lasting takeaways. If or when you eventually return to your home country, you may feel alienated at first. Your friends might not comprehend how you have changed. Routines from the past may seem pointless. The pace and values may clash with what you have come to cherish. It's common to experience reverse culture shock. It's also a test on whether you will apply what you have learned or go back to your old routine. The response is subjective. Some people start advocating for a simpler lifestyle. Others return overseas. Some start new careers that align with your values. Whatever you decide, you will not be the same person who got on that plane, regardless of the route you choose. It just takes 6 months in the Philippines or Southeast Asia to open your eyes. A year can change your habits. Several years may change your entire trajectory. You will acquire a better grasp of who you are, a broader view of the world, and a new appreciation for simplicity, connection, and gratitude. Even though you might not have more money when you return, your perspective will be richer. You'll be aware of what is important and what is not. Perhaps the greatest gift of all is the ability to live a life that is fashioned by experience rather than expectations and is lived with conscious awareness. Returning home after an extended period in Southeast Asia is often another form of culture shock. It could feel weird to be in familiar surroundings, and it could be hard to get back in touch with friends and relatives who haven't had a comparable life changing event. Some parts of your previous life may no longer resonate with you, and you will probably discover that you have changed in ways that are difficult to describe. But the knowledge acquired is priceless. You carry with you a more nuanced understanding of the world, a heightened sense of empathy, and a more robust sense of self. You are likely to be more adaptable, more patient, and more resilient. You may adopt a new outlook on your work, relationships, and day to day activities, prioritizing experiences over possessions, connections over competition, and contribution over accumulation. The experience of living in Southeast Asia, particularly the Philippines, for an extended period is not simply a break from routine back in your home country. It is an accelerant for personal growth. It strips away assumptions, exposes you to new realities, and compels you to look inward. It develops a global perspective and a deeper understanding of interconnectivity and variety. In the end, it gives you a deeper, more sympathetic, and more reflexive grasp of who you are, where you're from, and the enormous complex fabric of the human experience. It is an investment that yields lifetime benefits in self discovery. All right, guys, that is all for today's show. If you have any questions or comments, please comment down below. Thank you all for watching. Until next time, have a good day.